Hello, ladies and gentlemen, theys and thems, and everything in between. Welcome to the
Nocturnal nonsense.
podcast. It is me, your host, Vaughn, and our other lovely hosts, Zach and Adam. And today we're going to be rolling into, for our first episode, Adam wants to talk about some stuff with you guys. So let's, Adam, bring us in.
Yeah, so game companies all of a sudden decided they want to be like Hollywood and remake and reboot everything because apparently we ran out of ideas.
Is it all of a sudden though?
No, it's not, but I think it's got to do with that whole nostalgia factor because we're in a we're no longer in a generation, but majority of gamers have that nostalgic sense to them. So
Yeah.
I just think it's kind of like my personal opinion. Even though some of these games are coming out pretty good, we just new material, please. I just want new material.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, but like at the same time, like video game remakes and reboots and stuff aren't anything new. I mean, look at fucking Pokemon's been doing it my whole life.
Zelda.
Zelda. Well, Zelda came a little later into that game, right? But like Nintendo in general has been on top of the remakes and stuff like that for many, many years.
Well, I mean, when you say remake, though, like, what do you mean? Because I'm talking legitimately taking a game that was already made and then just putting it in like a new game engine.
Yeah, Pokemon Fire Red. Well, no, but that's okay. So there's a hard distinction that you got to make too. There's a reboot is like rebuilding a game from scratch, but like reimagined. A remake, at least by like the definition that I think of it, would be a game that is remade from scratch in a new engine, but is still trying to be and emulate the original, just
Right.
with maybe some like conceptual mechanic updates, and then porting a game over to a different engine and polishing it up is more of a remaster, right?
Yeah, so we're talking like Zelda Skyward Sword and then Zelda Skyward Sword HD. Right, same game, same everything, same storyline, same characters, same everything. The only difference is they've upped the graphics.
Right, and then you have things like Pokemon Fire Red, Pokemon Heart Gold, Soul Silver, that are just completely remade from the ground up in a new engine, but are trying to be faithful remakes, just with like updated mechanics.
Right. So like the most frequent or the most recent one would be like the
Dead Space.
Dead Space that they just came out with.
Literally, like what that came out. No, let's date ourselves. That came out like 3 days ago, something like that.
Yes. Yeah, it was like 3 days ago.
I've been dating myself for years.
Hey yo. I never played the original Dead Space. It was not my kind of game back in the day. I still don't think it's my kind of game, but like I like the lore of it. So I've been watching a couple playthroughs of the remake, and it looks really fucking good. Like it's really pretty.
Yeah, they did do a good job on it. I definitely I don't necessarily hate the fact that certain games get like remade or whatever, but I just
There's a lot.
It almost comes off like a. I'm not going to say a cash grab because it's not. Because usually
It can be.
It can be, but I think in most cases it's usually developers wanting to go back and correct the things that they might have made mistakes on when they made the original game.
And then there's Skyrim.
Right. Well, I mean, he already said if people keep buying it, he's going to keep re-releasing it. So people just stop buying it. Everyone, please, just stop.
Are we talking about Skyrim remakes in 2023? Re-releases?
Because they also have remakes like Final Fantasy VII that went off pretty fucking well.
True, but that's like a full remake. Like
yeah,
that is, and
like
that, I think is
in my opinion, that's a remake. Like that's what a remake is.
But like at the same time, it's kind of like a whole new like interpretation of the game, right? Like it's not one-to-one the original story. It's like an alternate timeline of that game, right?
So this is where I kind of falter a little bit. I know that everything's different. I've watched some gameplay, but I have not played it myself. I played the shit out of Final Fantasy VII, the original, when it came out in like 19 whatever 1997, 98. Hold on.
When you were just a wee lad.
1997. That what?
I
There's
forget
no
it
shot.
when it came. I forget exactly the date, the year that Final Fantasy VII came out. I know it came out around Legend of Legaia and Legend of Dragoon, and it got eclipsed by a lot of things in that.
1997, October 2nd.
Yeah, I was right.
Sorry,
Fuck you.
September 7th. October 2nd was the international release.
Okay, so yeah. So obviously I was 2 when it came out. However, when I was
Yeah.
around 6, 7, and upwards to then, I played it, replayed it up until I was like 15, and then actually understood what I was doing and played it, finished it.
When
So
you
played
and
the
I
original.
reconnected, this is a random tangent. When you and I reconnected, for context for the viewers, Zach and I have known each other since we were 2 or 3, technically, and then like families moved away, for like, and then reconnected like 9 years later or whatever, when we were like 13, something like that. And when I re-met Zach, everyone called him Cloud.
After this game, yep. I had no
Which
idea
is funny
why.
because there is a fucking character named Zach in the game.
True, and it's funny because like I never associated with Cloud. Like the character Cloud in and of himself, I have like no connection with, right?
What do you're both angsty as fuck. What do you mean? That's
And
all
we
the
got a
connection you
large
need.
sword, but that's besides the point. But in any case, what I was saying is, the remake I have nothing. I know very little about compared to the original game, but I do know that it was not a 1-for-1. I know they kept the characters. I think they kept parts of the storyline, but I know they changed a lot.
Like
If
the
I remember
factory
correctly, it
blowing
was like a
up.
bait and switch, right? Like, sorry, but they like built it up as if it was gonna be the same thing throughout the whole game, and then there was like a moment where it was like, wait a second, that's not how that goes. Something like that, I think, right?
Yeah.
I also hate that everyone thinks that Final Fantasy VII is the best Final Fantasy. You can fight me on this. Final Fantasy VIII was better.
Is that the one with the guy that goes ha ha ha?
It's Squall, the dude with the
Yeah, or Leon if
fucking
you prefer.
gunblade.
Yeah, I know nothing about this franchise.
And I think I like them both. I personally prefer Final Fantasy VII, but I do like Final Fantasy VIII. As long as we can all agree that Final Fantasy X sucked ass.
Yes.
Is
All
that
right.
the one with the guy that goes ha ha? 'Cause that's the only thing I know about any Final Fantasy
Water
game.
sports. That's the only good thing that came out.
Anyways, we are
Whoa.
deviating. The idea is remakes,
That's the-
right? We have different remastered, remakes, relaunches, because we've got games like Mario Party. Mario Party is just the same game, just let's add in an extra mini game or two here or there.
But like Mario Party goes out of its way to be a sequel. Like it's not just like re-releasing the same stuff every time.
You're still gonna ruin friendships with it, but
Yeah, it's like Mario Kart. But like actually Mario Kart's a really good example because Mario Kart, we didn't get like a new Mario Kart on the Switch. We still haven't. What, like 5, 6, 8? How long has the Switch been out? We still are just on Mario Kart DX, which is a port and slight remaster of Mario Kart 8 from the Wii U, which to be fair nobody played, so it's basically a new game. But yeah,
Isn't Mario Kart 8 Deluxe set to release? No, that was July 2021.
Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is the one that we've had since the Switch launched.
Right.
Yeah.
there's only one game that I wanted to buy the Switch for, and that was Animal Crossing.
For me, it was Metroid Prime 4, and I'm still malding. I was like, okay, Pokemon is going to move to the Switch eventually, so I need to get it for that. And then just fucking Sword and Shield came out. Imagine my life. And it took me 2 years to finish it because I hated it so much, and I couldn't sit through it. And then Legends Arceus came out, and it was all worth it. But I didn't even really care about getting on the new Smash Bros. Whenever that came out. My one thing that I wanted was Metroid Prime 4 because it was supposed to be a launch title, or at least like very close to. And again, we're like 6 years into the cycle, and it's eventually coming, maybe. But Dread was amazing, so I can't be mad. That's not a remake. Tangent. Anyway. Um but like you get like there's a lot of like remakes that are just like kind of soulless out there too. Like I don't think Brilliant Diamond, Shining Pearl for Pokemon example had any heart to it.
Yeah,
Like
no.
it was just let's make Pokemon in Unity. And god damn it, they made Diamond and Pearl in Unity.
I don't know. I mean, I wish. I know it doesn't matter now because I don't think there's enough people that would enjoy the games, but I kind of wish they'd go back and start remaking some of the games that were for like way older consoles, like N64 and all that.
I mean, so you have like a great example of an older console game getting remade from the ground up and it being a fucking masterpiece and better than the original with Metroid Zero Mission. Because that's like a remake and modernization of the original Metroid for the NES, and it was phenomenal. It was probably one of the best games on the Game Boy Advance back in the day. It probably still holds up as one of the best Metroid games. I see a lot of people put that in their like top 3 for 2D Metroids.
See, I'm more referring to the fact that I really want a Conker's Bad Fur Day remake,
yeah.
and not the one that came out for Xbox 360 because that was dog shit.
But that's the problem with that is like Rare doesn't really exist anymore.
I mean they do.
I mean, like
They made a good amount of money off of Sea of Thieves.
Sea of Thieves was Rare?
Yep,
What the
sure
fuck?
was.
I didn't know that. All right, you learn something new every day. But like, I don't know. I feel like the closest thing we're gonna get to like that was like the oh, what was the game with the chameleon that was just supposed to be like Banjo and Kazooie? You know what I'm talking about?
Which one?
I can't think of the name of it, but you play as like a chameleon or whatever. It came out a few years ago, and it was basically just Banjo and Kazooie, but different.
I have no fucking idea.
Yeah, I can't think of the name of it either. I think that
It probably wasn't very good then.
no, I don't think it was. I didn't play it, but I know it kind of got panned. I think like okay. I think that like there's a lot of bad examples, but there's also there's a fair amount of good examples, right? Like Resident Evil's doing really good shit.
That's fair.
And they really got them hair physics down too.
They got a lot of them physics down, you know what I'm saying?
No.
No?
No.
No.
Because if you're about to segue into a conversation about fucking thirsting over Lady D, I swear to fucking Christ.
Oh no, absolutely not.
Okay.
Not my type. Absolutely not. Heisenberg though? Oh my god. No, but like I genuinely like I think Resident Evil is like peak right now for the video game remakes. Like they have RE4 coming out soon.
I'm looking forward to RE. I hope they do RE5. As much as people talk shit on that game, I know what didn't fit like the normal mold of Resident Evil, but I fucking loved RE5.
I think RE5 fits better with the modern mold. I think it's gonna. I think
Like,
they
Boulder
remake
punching
that.
Chris is like the best thing in the world.
I think that's. I think RE5 is gonna feel good in like a modern lens,
I hope so.
especially since there's like a good chance that it ends up being like a first person thing, because that's kind of the vibe they've been going.
No.
No.
I'm cool with the first person. When it first came, was it RE7? Right, was
Yeah,
the
yeah.
first one that came out. Yeah, I wasn't the biggest fan of it being first person because to me, like the whole aspect of Resident Evil was the over the shoulder, fixed cameras. It gave you that eerie feeling, kind of like Silent Hill. Rest in peace, that game. But like to
mean
me, that was what
Pachinko?
made Resident Evil. You know what I mean? Like that was
Yeah.
the whole point of it. Like when you're a kid playing RE2 on fucking what PS1, and it's late at night, and you're walking down some hallway where you can't move the camera, and next thing you know, you got hands popping through windows and shit trying to grab. Like just the way that they made that game and like the ones that followed was great. RE4 was weird to me when it first came out, maybe because of the fact that I grew up with like RE1 and 2, but yeah, I mean, it was still good. I enjoyed the game. I just, from that point on, I kind of had the feeling it was going to go in the direction it did. Not that there's anything wrong with it, but like the first person thing definitely threw me off because I was not expecting that at all.
Yeah, and I think that was like a very popular sentiment at the beginning. But I think once the game came out, like people embraced it. Like, and I think that's like a important thing to look at, whether it's like remakes or game development or like progression of a franchise in general, is like the change in perspective or just like the change in mechanics or the way that it's presented. I think really does sell a lot for keeping the game fresh. Like every game being every PlayStation 3 game being an over the shoulder action game. It's just the same game with a different coat of paint, right? But like you take, and I mean like that's a broad, too broad of an example for this conversation, I guess, but you look at something like I don't know, Risk of Rain going from 2D to 3D for its sequel, and it being just basically the exact same game just in an extra dimension, really did a lot for that series and making it what it is now, right?
Speaking of Rain, another game that they should remake is Heavy Rain because I really want that scene of him walking through the mall screaming "Jason" over and over again.
I just want to
that-
cut in for just a second because you said rest in peace Silent Hill, but you know Silent Hill 2 is being remade, right?
Yeah, it's not gonna. I don't think it's gonna live up to the hype that it should. I really don't.
Yeah,
I think they took way too long with trying to do anything with it.
plus it's only going to be playable on a pachinko machine, so like what are you going to do with that?
I don't know. I read some articles about it, and I think some people are optimistic about it.
I would love for Silent Hill to make a comeback because like I never experienced Silent Hill, and I like a lot of the themes in Silent Hill. I like a lot of like just the whole that otherworldly vibe that it brings, and I want to be able to experience that myself. But I'm not gonna go back and play it because I'm lazy.
Yeah, well, the thing with Silent Hill anyway has always been like when it was released, it was like it had like a clunky combat system, right? That's what a lot of people didn't like about Silent Hill. But it's
Tank
just like,
controls.
yeah, the camera angles were fucking out of this world, man. Yeah, it was not fun, fiddly to be for sure. But yeah, I think with the idea of them renewing it now, maybe it won't live up to the expectation that it set when it released in 2001, but I think at the very least you're going to get a fluid gameplay experience now that they've had, 22 years since then to kind of upgrade and adapt with the software that's come out since then.
See, but I almost feel like that's a double-edged sword because they've had all that time. So if it does come out and it doesn't meet expectations, people are going to be like, "Well, you've had all this time. Like, how'd you fuck it up now?"
But then they get the benefit of being like, "Well, we tried, and if it fails, then it's just another remake that failed."
True.
They also get the benefit of being able to like put less effort into this and then being like, okay, well, here's the feedback. Now let's actually make a better game. And even if it sucks, but it's better than the last one, they'd be like, see, we listened to our audience.
True.
Which is a super cynical way of looking at things, but it happens way too often in the industry.
Yeah. I think the main thing is when it comes to being like, oh, we want something new, when someone actually releases something new, most people are like, well, this isn't the game that I know and love, so I'm not going to play it. And then
I mean, you're not wrong.
The developers are sitting there like, you asked for something new. We gave you something new. And they're like, well, it's not the something new that we wanted. When realistically, all along, the consumer database just wanted the same game over again. And so that's what they keep releasing.
You want to know what game came out multiple times that no one asked for, but they still gave it to everybody? Turok.
I thought we were going back to Skyrim. Oh god, Turok's a really good point, though. Do you know anybody who likes
for that.
Turok?
No one asked for any of the... So, like, when the original 2 games came out, right? I played them, and I enjoyed them. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't anything, super amazing. Uh-huh. And then they just kept pumping them out. And at a certain point, I forgot it even existed, and then I saw that they just apparently had, like, I don't think there's nothing recent, but they just kept making them. And I'm like, no one talks about Turok. Like, no one even knows what the fuck that is anymore.
There's got to be, like, an occult following.
It's Resident Evil, but with dinosaurs.
No, that's Dino Crisis. I don't know if you ever played that game. That game's amazing. I'm not even kidding. So it's over the shoulder, fixed camera, and it is like it's Resident Evil but with dinosaurs.
Wait, then what's Turok?
Turok is a first person, like you're in a jungle killing like dinosaurs and people and shit.
This is an appropriate silence.
And this is my point. This is exactly what... Because no one knows what the fuck the game is, but somehow they came out like 15 million different versions of it.
Yeah,
I don't know where they got the money from.
There's got to be someone somewhere that has an occult following for it, because if it wasn't making any money, it wouldn't still be being released. It might have an occult following in like Japan or in Korea or something, and it's just not popular in America. Would be my best guess, because there's no way they're releasing a game that would net them no money or negative money and then be like, okay, we're just going to keep releasing this because we like the game and we like the idea. And honestly, in the more financial structure of the world nowadays, if it's not making money, they're not going to release it.
I don't think that's true. I think that fucking people are gonna if it, I don't know. I think that people are gonna, you know what, just cut this out. I don't know what I'm talking about. I don't know where I was going with that point.
No, because I mean, if you really think about it, it's capitalism at its finest. If it's not making money, no matter how good the idea is or how unique the idea is, it doesn't matter. You're not making money on it. So if you're not making money on it, then they're not going to keep releasing it and re-releasing it. The reason why Pokemon and why Skyrim and all of these things get reboots and remakes and remasters is because people keep buying them. Every time it comes out, there is a mass following that goes, yep, we're buying that. We don't care how good or bad it is. We need to judge it. So with Turok, I'm just assuming that somewhere in the world, there's some amount of people who are like, we love this game and we will buy it until it's dead.
To be fair, it's also developed by Acclaim, which I'm pretty sure, aren't they still part of the development for all the newer Mortal Kombat games too? Or did somebody else take over? But if that's the case, then yeah, they already had backing from another game they made. So
yeah, but even still, I mean, even if you have backing from a game, if there is let's say you are a giant company like Bethesda, and you are making Fallout and Skyrim and all of these big titles that everybody knows and loves, they're not going to continue making a smaller game that nets them no income. Unless it's like... What
if the developers like that game, though, and they're doing it out of their own, like, desire to just want to make that game?
Well, it could be, their egg, right? They could be like, okay, this game doesn't have a following yet, but we think if we keep expanding on it, that people will really like it. But even then, that has, an expiration date, right? After, like, a decade, everyone's still just kind of like, oh, we know the game. Like, kind of like Turok, honestly, in this case. From our perspective, because none of us really play Turok or know Turok. It's one of those things that's like...
I guess Acclaim went bankrupt in 2004. Propaganda Games took over, and apparently the series generated more than $250 million in revenue by 2002.
Well then.
That's crazy. But who plays it? I've never heard anyone oh man, this fucking Turok game, bro. You should try. No one's ever fucking come up to me and said that.
It's just gotta not be popular in the Americas.
Turok Dinosaur Hunter? has an 8.6 on IGN, an 85% on Metacritic, and a 4.5 audience rating.
So I'm telling, and
A 4.5 star audience.
Also, I just
rating.
want to be the first one to if anyone listens to this that's a Turok fan, I apologize. I'm not shitting on the game.
I am.
No
yeah,
fuck
I
dinosaurs.
don't
talks about
apologize, and fuck you.
Oh, it's the Doom Dino game. Oh, okay. That's where I was messed up. It's the Dino Crisis was the RE style game, and then Turok was Doom with dinosaurs. Got you. Okay. Huh.
Yeah, there's also the
I'm,
thought
like,
that occurs
just
to me
pulling-
that's like maybe Turok is a game that's just not popular in our region.
I mean, true.
Not just America, but like our region, because we're all Northeasterners, and maybe it was just never something that was super popular in the Northeast.
Oh, these textures are something.
Are you looking up the game?
I'm pulled up. Yeah, I pulled up gameplay. Those are people. Those are dino people. That guy has a whole spear. All right.
Anyways, the
Yeah.
idea is there's some things that can be like an egg that they'll kind of nurse over time, and hopefully it becomes big. But Turok, obviously, it has a popular following. If it didn't, then they wouldn't keep releasing it.
Also, I really like the names that developers came out with their games like back in the day compared to now.
For instance,
Where they just didn't give a fuck.
Well, just any of the names from back in the day. I mean, they just like even like this series, the Turok series. You got Turok Battle of the Bionosaurs.
That's awesome, dude. You got Turok 2 Seeds of Evil.
Like
Turok 3
Rage Wars.
Shadow of Oblivion.
It's just like everything
No,
sounds
these
so
are-
much more intense. What happened?
Battle of the Bionosaurs is my favorite title I've ever heard.
Oh,
And then there's Turok Escape from Lost Valley, and like the cover art looks like it's very chibi-esque. Can we just bring back where we just took a game, slapped 64 at the end of it, and called it a day?
Hey, those were the days.
true, the golden age of gaming.
Toy Story 2 Buzz Lightyear to the Rescue. I don't know why that's like showing up as a related game to Turok, but okay. Wave Race 64.
I played that game all the
Doom
time. I fucking loved that
64.
game.
So just out of curiosity, what are our standpoints on the remakes and remasters? Like, are we for them? Are we against
We've
them?
been so far off of that topic.
I don't know. If it's done with good intention, and you can tell by the way a game's made, then I'm for it. I just feel like it's gonna go in the direction where developers are gonna use that as just a way to use something that was already popular, slap the name on it, redrop it, and then if it comes out like it was just a cookie cut or whatever, people are gonna end up spending money on it and get disappointed, and then it's just gonna be a cash cow.
Well, what about the perspective of like the newer generation? Because like we know the game, we love the games that are
You don't want my
being.
opinion on the newer generation.
Yeah, I understand, but still, we kind of still want people to enjoy the things that we enjoyed when
The
we
new
were
generation
kids.
likes Fortnite.
Yeah, but that just Fortnite can be an intro game. It's like weed, right? Fortnite is weed. Because Fortnite is the gateway into the gaming community, right? Fortnite in and of itself, I think most of the time people be like, it's fucking Fortnite. But the newer generation plays Fortnite and they're like, oh, we actually like gaming. And then they can branch that knowledge into games that actually are, good.
How can we put SimCity and a shooting game together? Fortnite.
I don't know. I'm kind of the opinion that I like the remasters and remakes. I rarely, if ever, buy them. However, I like the idea that, people who don't know these things can at least have some kind of experience as I did like when I was a kid.
I get it. Support it from a distance. You're never going to actually pay into it and really support it, but emotionally you're there for it.
I'm the kind of person that likes things that are
IRL.
new and interesting. So like I don't like replaying the same game over and over and over again. Much how I burnt out on League of Legends. It's one of those things. I want to play something that is a brand new idea. Like I don't know, any number of games. I'm always hopping from game to game to game to game, and then eventually, occasionally, I will go back to the classics. Wizardry 8 is like my anchor. If I'm bored and I don't know what I want to play, Wizardry 8 was made 2 decades ago and has shit graphics, but also I love that game, and it's the only one that I've replayed back to back, I think, ever.
You know what's another good game? Raid Shadow
Shadow
Legends.
Our sponsor, no, I'm kidding.
I'm gonna cut in with my take, which is that I kind of agree on both sides. Like I think personally, if it's made with good intent and it's not just like a super shameless cash grab, then I'm more like it doesn't faze me.
You mean like
It's
Skyrim?
Yeah. Well, that's not really remakes. That's re-releases, which is
Stop.
arguably
Just
worse.
stop buying the game, please. Just everybody stop. Just stop, please.
But the I don't know. As a big Pokemon fan, my whole life, everything is just kind of like going downhill in quality. Like I still enjoy the games, but the remakes, at least as of BDSP, I had no interest in getting. I thought that like Sword and Shield sucked ass, but I think I was looking forward to Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl being in the Sword and Shield engine, and I think that would have saved that generation of Pokemon for a lot of people. Because, like, yeah, like the engine had its issues, Sword and Shield was not good, but, well, now we have Sinnoh, and Sinnoh is a fucking beautiful region. It's not my favorite, like, entry in the franchise, but it had so much potential to be great in that 3D engine. And then they said, nah, fuck it. We're just going to do it in Unity and we're going to outsource it to a third party. And like, there's a lot of quality stuff in there, but the fact that it's detached from the generation, which isn't something that we see traditionally with Pokemon, was like a really big letdown for myself and a lot of people. But even going back, like, a lot of people will say that Heart Gold and Soul Silver or Fire Red and Leaf Green are their favorite entries in the entire franchise.
Which is kind of funny because my favorite game out of all the ones I played of Pokemon, I really love Pokemon Gold, like the original.
Yeah,
Did
Gold
you say
was
Pokemon Go or Pokemon Gold?
It took me
Gold.
a second to process
Gold.
too.
Okay, fair.
Yeah, you know, like the bling gold. Yeah.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I was just gonna say drastically different Pokemons if you said the other one, but I still would have supported you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Gold.
Yeah.
I loved Gold and Silver. I mean, you know, I had the original, you know, Blue and Red and Yellow, and played Fire Red and Emerald. I think I followed the games. I think the last one I played consistently was Fire Red and Leaf Green, and I think I skipped. What came after Fire Red and Leaf Green?
Diamond and Pearl.
I don't think I played Diamond or Pearl.
Was it Diamond and Pearl then Black and White, or was it?
So, yeah, Diamond and Pearl and Platinum were Gen 4. Then Heart Gold and Soul Silver were remakes of Gen 2 on the Gen 4 engine,
Which I
and
didn't
then
play.
Black and White 2, and then we didn't get the Gen 3 remakes until Gen 6.
And I played Black and White 2 was my next game after Emerald and Fire Red.
Wait, you didn't play Black and White 1?
Nope. Because, funny enough,
But it's
at
a
the time,
sequel.
you had Black and White or no, you had what, Black 2, I think is what you had. And
Oh,
you were
you're
like, hey, if
right.
you want to play this, you can borrow it from me. And I was like, you know what, I'll give it a shot.
I just assumed you played
I
both of them
remember that
already.
actually. I was around for that.
Yeah.
I think this was like right before because this was like while we were hanging out with our other friend Connor.
Well, I remember him playing that game though.
Yeah, I have no doubt. Me and Adam met around that time.
True. That's fair.
Because at the time I was still hanging out with Jared, which is how I met Adam.
Fuck that guy, right?
True.
We're just gonna cut that whole section out.
Nope. Jared, if you're listening to this, fuck you, you're a piece of shit. Anyways, continue.
Where were we again?
Pokemon.
My stance is,
remasterings.
I guess the TLDR is, I think that remakes and reboots are fine when they work and when there's like care and passion put into them, but when it's just like, yeah, this is the game, you know, this game, buy it, please. Like, why do we care? Like, there's got to be like a purpose to it too. Like, Red and Blue were objectively just like really kind of bad games, but like they were good for the time. But Ruby and Sapphire were so much fucking better, and they were so much more Game Boy Advance, so they were more advanced. But so it made sense to bring those to a new console to make them more playable and digestible for like a new audience. They were also fucking made in in the 90s. So, of course, let's update them to like the 2000s and make them better. And then same thing with Gold and Silver, bringing those to the Nintendo DS was a great plan, and it worked out really well. And it is the definitive way to play that generation of Pokemon. And I think Fire Red, Leaf Green, Heart Gold and Soul Silver are the definitive ways to play those games. It is there's no point in going back further. Whereas Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, you could play. They're a good experience. The music is awesome, but I still think that you're better off playing the original Ruby and Sapphire. And
That's
absolutely,
honestly,
Gen 4, play the original. Or better yet, play ROM hacks. ROM hacks are just better versions of remakes and remasters. Anyway, that's my take.
although something that you had mentioned earlier that I do think is a problem with like current video games though is like there's nothing replay value of video games these days, like modern games, is like non-existent because everyone will buy a new game and they'll play through it, and most campaign times now for single player games or anything single player is so short, which I already know like single player games are a dying like breed, which I kind of hate because like that was like that was gaming to begin with. That's like forgetting your roots almost. But most of these games now, there's just, unless it has some kind of cut and dry, multiplayer that comes with it, like you'll buy the game for $60, play it for like a total game time of maybe 30 hours at the most, and then people just forget about it and they'll go on to the next thing. And I feel like there's nothing that really hooks people anymore in games. It's just not that they're bad games. It's just, I don't know. It's something's missing from them now. Because back in the day, you could load up the same game and play it over and over and over and over again, and people didn't give a shit. It was still enjoyable.
Well, let's look at some of the older games. Like, let's go old, right? Let's bring back Zork for a second.
I don't even know what the fuck that is.
Text-based games. Zork? Really? Or
You have been eaten by a
group. No, you are likely to be eaten by a group.
You are
and then
likely
you have.
to be eaten by a group.
It's text-based games, right? In text-based games, a lot of it was decision-making. This is what you have in front of you. You visualize what the text is giving to you. Obviously, text-based games.
Isn't the term for those mud games or something like that? Or mud or something like that?
No, so Mud is multi-user dungeon. Zork was single player.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the cool thing about
Similar
Zork
idea.
and the reason why you could play it on end, back to back to back to back, is because whenever you made a mistake, you died. and then you got reset to the beginning, and then you would have to retrace your steps or try and take a different path. And that kind of just lengthened the amount of time that you could play it, because you couldn't really beat it without making mistakes on mistakes on mistakes and finding new things. And that goes
It's
back
almost
in
like
old school
roguelikes
games
are
too.
still one of the most popular genres of games right now.
Let's take Mario 64, stepping ahead a little bit. Mario 64, there was so much to do it. You did not need to do everything in the game to complete the game. However, you had a lot of opportunity to do so many different levels, to try different things or go different places, and there was just so much content within the game that everybody really, really liked playing it. And then it kind of adapted over time with, speedrunners and, different ways to play the game, how to, break the game and make everything crazy. I mean, people found single player games and found their own interest in them. Going into like Skyrim and Fallout, you have people who mod now to make the gameplay what they want, which is, still Fallout and still Skyrim. However, there are things that make it more fun or make it more challenging or make it harder. And that's what keeps people on those games. But then you kind of step forward and people really enjoy playing Call of Duty and Fortnite and all of these games that you play together with friends. Most of the time you hear people being like, oh, I'm going to go hang out with my boys and go, where are we landing kind of thing, right? Single player games are dying because there's just not enough to keep people's interests for long periods of time. Whereas
everyone's got ADD now.
Well, when you're playing with friends, you always have your different clashing personalities, or not so clashing personalities with your best friends and stuff like that. It keeps it interesting because of the company you're keeping. Whereas single player, the only company you're keeping is yourself, and you need to find a way to entertain yourself within that single player game.
Well, I guess we're the exception to that rule then, because how is it that we can all play technically a multiplayer game as a single player when we play PoE, but everyone has no problem sitting in a call with each other and still talking?
I think so there's a couple things I wanted to interject with, and that's going back to the Mario 64 example, and I think Mario Sunshine is a good example too. It's just like a lot of older games had a lot more room for tech skill.
True.
And just like even not from a speedrunning standpoint, there was a lot of skill that you had to just like pick up in older games. Older games tended to be harder, and sometimes it was because they didn't have a tutorial, or they didn't have like a good tutorial, or maybe it was unintended mechanics or something like that. Melee being a really good example, but that's not a single player game technically. But just like older games in general had a lot of room for you to like express your own skill in, that I feel like a lot of modern games are more handholdy. Which to my next point is that I think that it's less that single player games are dying because people aren't interested in them. I think it's people are intentionally putting less effort into single player games as developers. I know a lot of people are praising God of War, like the new one right now.
I've literally not heard a bad thing about God of War.
And that's a single player game. And I think the point is like there was this huge phase in the industry a few years ago, maybe even as long ago as when Overwatch first came out, talking about single player is dying. And I've heard so many conversations about this topic. I don't think that it's so much the single player is dying as far as like the consumer goes. I think there is a dedicated audience that wants more single player experiences. Like we're going back to Skyrim again. Like, yeah, keep re-releasing it and people keep buying it, but it's, to be fair, like it's not my cup of tea for a game, but it's a good game and it's a good single player game, and it provides that niche. And if there's not a lot of other good single player experiences coming out, of course it's going to sell so much. I think that if developers stopped being so like, I don't know if they're being cynical about it, if they're just being like, oh well, nobody's gonna buy this anyway, then why bother? Look at Doom. Doom came back years ago and it's still coming out, and it's still performing well. And that's like, yeah, there's multiplayer stuff in it, but it's primarily for the single player.
Or it's just easier to make a multiplayer game.
Oh no, it absolutely is, because you don't have to put any thought into the story and the lore. That's
Right,
all
it's just
secondary.
gameplay.
It's just gameplay.
How many
As
times
long
can we
as
re-release Call of Duty, which has a story mode that a lot of people have not played?
I did hear that the one of the newer Call of Duties, like Ghost or whatever, maybe. I don't follow that series, so I don't know what the newest one is, but I've heard like people are praising the story lately
I think Call of
for Call
Duty
of Duty.
has. So I have a few friends who have played Call of Duty religiously their entire lives, and basically say that the campaign is actually usually almost always really good. It's just most of the player base doesn't play it for the campaign; they play it for the multiplayer online.
Yeah, no, it's just they're short, and that's because it's a multiplayer game first and foremost. So the campaigns there are cool, but it's made really well. It's just short because they put more effort into the
So
multiplayer.
is single player gaming being destroyed by capitalism?
What isn't?
Because what it sounds like is like, a multiplayer game is easier to make, which means less man hours. Will sell just as well as as a single player game. So why make a single player game when you can make just the same amount of money off putting in less effort?
I mean, yeah,
That sucks.
money's got a lot to do with a lot of things. But I don't know. I mean, it's just one of those things.
Yeah.
I didn't necessarily mean that like it's dying from a player base, because there like you said, there are plenty of people that want single player games. I think it is a developer thing, and I think it is. I mean, in my opinion, I think they don't want to put the time and effort into a single player game because it's not going to be what they want. They don't want they want an easier time and the same amount of money for less shit to deal with. Even though, in my opinion, I feel like multiplayer games are more of a hassle because then you have upkeep. I mean, the amount of times you have to patch, fix shit, hire a team that fucking, takes care of your servers and everything else, and then there's a whole lot that goes into that crap.
That's fair.
But
I think
I mean,
maybe it's also from the standpoint of it's a lot easier to steal a single player game, right? Because back in the day, you'd buy a disc that held your game, and then the only way you'd get that disc is if you borrowed it from a friend. With that data being online via Steam, a lot of it has been made it easier to steal, which means people buy it a lot less. So it's easier to monitor online games to see who actually purchased your game, to see, you're not supposed to be here, you ban them, and then it's a lot easier to keep track of your gains.
All right, and we're gonna wrap it up here. I think for the episode. Thank you guys for tuning in. I've been Vaughn. This has been Adam and Zach as well. And thank you for tuning into the
nocturnal nonsense.
podcast. You guys have a lovely night, and we'll see you next week. Bye bye.